everybody, welcome to the 10 Laws with East Forest podcast. Thanks so much for joining me, spending a little time as we dig into all this stuff of the heart and the mind. Today I have a podcast with Soul Rising. He's a brother I see out there on the road. As a matter of fact, I just saw him this last weekend at the Tree Fort Music Fest and Yoga Fort here in Boise, Idaho. So we got actually some time to connect. And I was like, that's perfect, because I think I'm going to be releasing your podcast conversation we did this week. Talking to him was awesome because I learned so much. You know, a lot of times you pass people for years and you think you know each other, and then you never really sat down and just asked a few questions and got into that listening mode. He's had a really interesting upbringing, and one that would explain why he's so calm when I'm around him. Because it's not many people who went to like a Transcendental meditation school as their school, among many other things. So I'm sure you will enjoy this conversation. And some of the gearheads, the music people, we get into some of that too. If that's not for you, hey, you can always fast forward. But I think that stuff's just kind of interesting, looking into how things are created. But as I said, we were at Tree Fort, which is, it's one of my favorite festivals. It might be my favorite festival all year, and I'm a little foggy because it's a big 5-dayer. I performed 3 times. Aside from that, we're out seeing all sorts of bands all night, and then there's all sorts of other activities. My parents came into town. My nephew's here for the week, so I'm besides the fact that I'm trying to finish the Ram Dass record and heading out on tour as and doing all the things that we do. I want to tell you a little bit about Tree Fort and some of the bands that I discovered that I enjoyed the most. But just a heads up, if you are in Texas, I'm coming your way. March 30th in Dallas, the 31st in Austin. And then after that, I'm doing a little stint out there in the East Coast and in Chicago. So I hope to see you guys on April 10th. I'll be in Pennsylvania and then New Jersey. And April 13th is a big event in New York City for my New York friends. Please get your tickets in advance to that one. That's with Morning Altars. It's a joint ceremony event where he's making a live altar, and it's a whole ritual we're going to do. It's going to be incredible. That's April 13th. And this is all a ceremony tour, but that one's with Morning Altars, New York. But then we're up in Massachusetts on the 14th. Then 15th, and then heading upstate New York on the 17th, all the way up to Ithaca on the 18th. And then I'm going to bounce out to Chicago for the 20th. And then after that, I'll get a little break before the Maui retreat with Ram Dass. So lots more after that. There's a Northwest tour coming up in June. And, of course, the retreat's happening. So Big Sur on the summer solstice at Esalen Hot Springs with Marissa Rada-Wepner and myself. And we'll also be at the East Forest Retreat, Boulder, Utah, southern Utah. So, Tree Fort. I saw a band that blew my mind. I just want to tell you a little bit about it quickly before we get into our conversation with Soul Rising. It was a group from Japan, and it was 4 or 5 very petite women speaking Japanese, and they're setting up their thing. They're called Chai, C-H-A-I, and they proceeded to play. And it was like a firestorm of energy. But beyond that, they were like super tight on their instruments. And their songwriting was actually quite clever and catchy. It sort of reminded me almost of Gorillaz or something. And they sounded a little bit like Alvin and the Chipmunks. But that sounds bad. But I'm telling you, it was amazing. They blew my mind. I haven't even looked at their recordings. I don't know how that translates. But if you ever see Chai, I believe they're big in Japan, but if they make it out to the U.S. again, check them out. That was a blast. And then I also got to see an artist that I already knew, her music, Sudan Archives, but I have never seen her live. And I really enjoyed that, especially some of the instrumentation that was going on in the live setup, some of that low sub-frequency, but a lot of space around that with just some sort of percussive elements, some live looping, and her singing. So Sudan Archives was fun. I mean, there are 450 bands, so I did see a lot of other stuff. Those are just 2 things I want to tell you about briefly, because it's always great. That's what's the great thing about Tree Fort is you can just wander around and get a chance to discover new things that you might not otherwise see. But chapter 2 just came out of the Ram Dass project, and I was so warmed my heart to see all the listening gatherings that were going on. I saw some pictures some of you posted. I mean, how cool is it to see that there's people out there gathering with people they didn't know before, and now you guys are forming friendships and community, using this music as an excuse really to get together. It's just really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that, and I look forward to seeing more of those for chapter 3, which is coming in June. It's actually on the right, it might be on the solstice. It's on the Friday there. I believe it's June 21st. The solstice is chapter 3. But we've got some time now to dig into chapter 2. And there's those 4 new songs and some themes there that I will open up in some of these podcast discussions and hopefully give you some behind-the-scenes look into We Are Truth, The Home track, A Miracle, and You're a Guru. So let me know what you think on social media. It's just interesting to make music like this and put it out there, and then I'm just sort of like, okay, what do you guys think? What do you think? What's it bringing up in your hearts, in your minds? So let me know. Continue to, unless you don't like it, I don't need to know that, because you just don't have to listen, and you have bad taste. No, really, it's just like there are some haters out there, and but the haters are going to be haters. It's the way it is, and it's my job just to not get involved with that. I find it very interesting sometimes that people, it often happens when they can be anonymous, but they want to tell you how they don't like something. It's sort of like, how about you just go away and not be part of my ecosystem, because your opinion is not something I need to know. I don't think anyone really cares, but it's just people feel like they can't just tune things out. There's almost infinite amounts of content out there these days. And if anything, we live in a world where everything is reviewed, everything is quantified, everything is rated, and everyone has become a critic and a skeptic and a thumb up or a thumb down. It's almost like our votes matter more in that sense than they do like politically. Like less people vote in our voting system than they do to rate the yogurt shop that opened down the street. So anyway, I am just a little tired from this whole tree fort experience. I'm sure I'm not even making much sense now. So I'm gonna get into this conversation with Mr. Soul Rising. I did so enjoy it. I love talking to him. Dig it. Here it is. Where are you, by the way?
I'm in LA, Los Angeles. Yeah.
Like, you an East Sider or a West Sider?
I was a West Sider, and now I am officially an East Sider.
Oh,
yeah, moved over.
What made such a radical transformation in your life?
Getting a house and the cost of rent, even though my place is really expensive, so it didn't actually make that much of a difference. But it just worked out that way.
Where are you now?
Highland Park. Do you know that area?
Sorta. That's like, I know, like, kind of.
It's in between.
I know, like, it's like
it's in between.
Pasadena,
Yeah, exactly.
And Glendale, or
exactly.
something.
It's right in between there. Yep.
That's where I think Mark Maron lives. Do you know that guy? He's got that podcast, WTF.
I don't know him. No.
Oh, anyway.
But,
big podcaster guy.
We saw heard Rosario Dawson was 2 blocks away getting tacos. So apparently it's a happy neighborhood. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
So you said you just got back from India?
I did, yeah.
What was that all about? That's quite a journey.
Yeah, I was just I was there with my spiritual teacher, and I actually had been there 12 and 13 years ago, and I got so freaking sick that I was like, I'm never going back to this place ever again. And for some reason, it just called to me this year. We went to the Kumbh Mela, which is the largest spiritual religious gathering in the world. They say there was maybe 50 to 70 million people there, all praying and chanting and doing
Wow.
mantras, and it was really powerful. It's like this experience of being in total bliss and expansion, and so freaking uncomfortable, like like on the physical body. So it's this kind of they're kind of fighting each other a bit, but
Where's the physical uncomfortability coming from? Because of like because you're in India, or more like something about the actual experience?
Everything. Like India is it's gorgeous and it's really, really polluted. The air is really bad. Like if you think LA bad, LA's bad. It's nothing compared to India. And
outside the cities too.
Yeah, well, where we were in Allahabad, or I think it's called Prayagwar now. I think they changed the name, and it's the confluence of the three holy rivers, Yamuna, Ganges River, and Saraswati, which is like an etheric underground river. And excuse me if I pronounced any of those wrong.
Etheric underground river, meaning it's not a physical river.
That's
like an
what
river.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's actually a river.
It sounds like some
there.
hippie shit.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. I just look at it like as a much larger Burning Man. I mean, think like tent city, just like tents everywhere. They do have electricity and stuff like that, and sewage system, but yeah, you're basically taking cold showers. It's really cold at night, so there wasn't really hot showers, and then they have to make everything, so they made the bathrooms and everything like that. And
how many people?
Well, our camp was like, I don't know, like 60, 70 Westerners, and then there was like a bunch of Indian people kind of staffing and helping, and but there's always people coming in, sadhus and things, and feeding them and all of that. But yeah, the entire that entire event, I think it's over the course of a month, is like 50 to 70 million. I don't actually believe it because it doesn't seem like that many, but that's what they say. So it's massive. Let's just put it that way.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, tell me more. I want to know more about, like, I guess, I mean, I'm interested in this as sort of a spiritual practice and event. So what that is and kind of what drew you to do this.
Yeah, I mean, well, I went with my teacher, so it was a little easier. Like everything was set up for us. I would say if you go there by yourself, make sure that you have a camp or something, or just kind of know what you're doing, unless you love adventure, because it's really intense. Like anytime we would go outside of the ashram, it's just crazy. There's people everywhere, and just lots of traffic, and it's just it's not the most settling experience. But just the what I noticed, we also visited Varanasi for a day, and I have the same experience there. It's like the holy city in India, city of Shiva, and it's also on the Ganges River. Is just the vibration is so high. It's like I feel like I don't even have to meditate. You can just feel the energy is palpable. It's like tangible.
Wow.
And so it's really easy to do sadhana or spiritual practice, like much easier than like if I'm in LA in my home, with all the city stuff going on, because there's just people chanting, like millions of people all chanting, to, different Hindu gods and goddesses, and meditating. And so, yeah, it's quite an experience. It's really, really unique, nothing like it. So,
well, I don't even know like your own personal, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I don't even know like what your own personal spiritual practices are, or how you even got to these. I mean, we should go back a little bit.
Yeah.
And for the benefit of people who don't know you, because I only know you like casually as a buddy out on the road.
Yep.
And like, where did you grow up? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Vancouver, BC. And when I was 2,
did you grow up there?
Well, kind of. So when I was 2, my dad left, and it was just me and my mom. My mom was really young and stressed out in college, and so she looked to meditation. So she found Transcendental meditation when I was 4 years old, and then she actually had me trained in it. So, you know, we had a little walking technique as a 4-year-old. I used to always pretend that I would forget my mantra because I didn't feel like doing it, but like I really remembered. And then she'd have to take me back to the center and they'd tell me, but I already knew what it was. But that was pretty funny. But anyway, when I was 7, my mom decided that we should move to Fairfield, Iowa, which is a town of meditators, so transcendental meditators. And so I went to school actually for transcendental meditation. She went to the university there to finish her master's. And I mostly grew up in Fairfield. I moved away back to Vancouver and Washington for a year or two. But yeah, most of my education was based in meditation. We would do like very basic asana yoga practice in the morning, and we would our foreign language was Sanskrit. So like we'd read it every day and we had no idea what any of it meant, but they're just like, oh, the vibration of Sanskrit.
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So you went to a school that was based around transcendental meditation?
I did, yeah.
But did you have traditional schooling as well?
Oh yeah, of course. But like we had like some weird things. Like I don't know how to do like regular math.
Who does? I mean,
yeah.
we have
Exactly.
phones now. And
Yeah. But we had this thing called Vedic math. So it was based in like Vedic science.
What?
Yeah, and so it was, and we would say like Vedic Sanskrit words when we would like do different calculations. So now I'm like screwed if I ever had to do math and I had to like ask somebody how to actually calculate something. They probably wouldn't know how to show
You're
me.
a DJ for life, man.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just grew up in that
Amazing
world. Yeah.
And so was that all the way through like the end of what would be the equivalent of high school?
Yeah. So like I said, I moved away for a couple of years. I went back in 9th grade, went through high school, and then I went to university and went to University of Iowa. And by the end of the 4 years, I was super depressed and kind of lost. And my mom knew this teacher, Sai Maa, who she kept mentioning to me. And I was like, nah, I don't want to go or whatever. And it just hit this point where I was like, whatever, I'm just going to try it because I'm suffering. So, you know, even with all the meditation and stuff that I had done, there was still something missing for me. So I went and, did a course with her and then ended up living in an ashram for 2 years, which is why I went to India 2 times and also just lived an ashram life for a couple of years and kind of got back on track from that. And then I had studied accounting in college. And you know,
Wait a minute.
yeah,
I thought you were bad with numbers.
I was kind of joking. I mean,
Vedic accounting.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Anyway, I can kind of deal with numbers, but I mean, I would have been a terrible accountant because
because it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. Exactly. I mean, no offense to accountants out there.
If you're creative.
Yeah, exactly. So my teacher looked at me and was like, "You're not an accountant." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And so she's, come to the ashram. And it was like I used to DJ events for her, and we were in Australia, and there was like 1,000 people, and they were just dancing like crazy. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, "We didn't really have to meditate this weekend. Like everything's happening right here because everybody's in such joy, like they can't think, and like the work's happening." And I was like, "Oh, duh! I'm supposed to do music, because I." Okay, so rewind a little bit. This is the big part of, high school is I started DJing when I was 15 and became a scratch DJ. And then by the age of 20, 21, I was competing in major DMC competitions and winning major regional battles and going to the national finals. And then I won Scribble Jam, which is it's the same battle that Eminem used to do and a lot of other great DJs. It basically was the 4 elements of hip hop, and there was a competition in each element. And so, I had this music background, but I didn't think I could make it as a musician. I didn't even think of it as a career. It was just a hobby. So I went through accounting, met my teacher, and then she said, don't be an accountant. I agreed. And then at this workshop, when everyone was going crazy, I just realized, like, wow, I'm supposed to do music. Like, this is my passion, and this is so powerful. Like, this has a lot of value to people's lives. It can transform lives. And like, I wanted to be in service to the planet, as hippie as that sounds. I think we all want to contribute, something deep down. And so I just ended up, eventually leaving the ashram, and I went back to school to study music production, because I knew, like, I couldn't just DJ. I had to actually learn to produce music. I had no actual musical training. I knew how to scratch and I knew how to mix. But
so you went to like engineering type school?
Yeah, it was this school called Pyramind in San Francisco. So they taught us all the music production, engineering, how to do sound for film. It was just kind of how to record and all of that. So
right.
that's kind of where.
You're blowing my mind. I have to go back. I had some questions.
Yeah, sure.
So you're the spiritual teacher that you went to the ashram with for a couple years.
Yep.
Who is that again? And is there a particular, like, tell me just a little bit more about like that world and methodology.
Her name's Sai Maa, and she's a Indian guru who's from Mauritius, and grew up in France. And I was always drawn to, I think the Western mind is really afraid of the guru and the whole concept of surrender. And, there's a lot of talk about, your own guru, which I totally agree. Like, a real guru will tell you that I'm just a reflection of you. But for me, like, I just needed the guidance. Like, I think, like, you can obviously do things on your own, but it's like, if I'm like training in Kung Fu, like, I want to find the greatest master possible that can teach me, because they've been there. So that's kind of how I look at it, the teacher relationship. Like, if I hadn't met my teacher, like, I wouldn't be doing music. I'm like pretty convinced I'd be doing accounting or suffering in some weird job that had no meaning to me, because I didn't have the confidence at the time to pursue that. But with, my teacher's blessing and guidance, she said, you're not going to, you have basically no chance of failing. If you pursue music, you're going to be successful and it's going to do very well. And like, I guarantee it, just have faith. Those kind of words, like, kind of help push me in that direction. And that's kind of been my guiding light, so to speak, because, you're a musician. I went through like 10 years of just, it was terrible. Like, I mean, it was, not making any money, nothing working. And that kind of, just that confidence that she sort of showed me, it just kept me going. I don't think I would have kept going without that. So I really owe a lot to that and to her. And
that's who you just went to India with?
Yeah, that's who I just went to India with.
Oh, that's beautiful. And so are there any particular, is there a practice? Like, is it yogic based, or is it more meditation based, or none of the above?
It's kind of something
you use, like,
it's
besides
all,
sort of remembering like these words, but what else, some things that actually help you?
I mean, there's obviously like a lot of practice based in, like, I guess, Hindu spirituality. But the thing is, like, she loves, Jesus and Judaism, and it's basically all encompassing. So it just embraces all religions. So there's like a little bit of everything, but it's based in spirituality. So, there's different practices of meditation. She does a lot of esoteric work too. So she works with like ascended masters and angels and just some pretty far out stuff. What
about any psychotropic anything?
Not so much. No.
What about yourself?
No,
has that been part of your development ever?
No, I haven't really dabbled in that so much. No.
Do you still work with transcendental meditation?
I actually do. My girlfriend, just on her own, just started practicing, and then it kind of got me back into it because she's doing it twice a day. So I'm like, I should do that. And
That's the thing, right? It's like
yeah.
2 half-hour sessions is sort of like the
Yeah, it's like
standard.
two. That's like 20 minutes, and then you do
Two
a
20
rest.
minutes.
I would say with transcendental meditation, it's the most restful meditation that I've ever done. I've done a lot of different practices, but some meditations you feel like you're working hard, or there's a lot of focus. But TM is so chill, like you're not supposed to put any effort into it. So it's really good for the body and the nervous system, and just like finding rest.
Have you ever done any Vipassana retreats, meditation style?
I haven't, but I've heard really good things, and it sounds like I don't know, I'd probably go nuts.
I was just curious how you might think it compares to your other stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried that.
Interesting. All right, so you moved to the east side of LA. We got back to that.
Yeah.
All right. And you're rich and famous and a successful musician. We're done.
Yeah,
good. You've arrived.
Except
all right.
just minus the rich and famous part.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I was when you were saying that stuff about 10 years of the sort of I don't know, struggle. I was just reflecting back when you're saying that on my own process, and a lot of it too was sort of discovering myself as well. I mean, yes, it was hard, but I also know, like, just looking back, I was sort of trying some different angles of myself and trying to feel like what felt the most comfortable. And at the same time, I don't know about you, but I noticed like my own skills as a producer and an engineer and a mixer and a writer and a performer all were helping to improve through that process too. Like in some ways, I didn't feel I was ready for certain. I mean, I wanted certain opportunities, but looking back, I think I'm not sure I was necessarily ready for them.
Right. Yep.
Which is hard to accept. But then I started thinking about the future too, and I'm like, oh, maybe everything's just at its right place, at its right time.
Totally. Yeah, I think that we really like attract what we're ready for and what we think. I mean, there's things that we could be doing unconsciously that are blocking us from the success that we think that we want. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. And, the more that I've kind of dived into, I did a lot of, I've done a lot of trauma work too lately. That's not really based in meditation, but just, I was abandoned when I was 2 years old by my dad, and it was a little bit of a difficult start to life for me. So
formative time. Yeah.
So I was carrying that with me, and no amount of meditation was able to heal that. And so I kind of dived into some different therapies and stuff. And I noticed that when I started to experience progress within that therapy, a lot more started to come into my life. Like when I started that therapy, it's called NARM therapy, which I was doing. And when I started it, I was probably making like $10,000 a year, asking money from my parents. Like I couldn't support myself. And fast
with
forward
music, you mean?
Yeah, with music, yeah. And then fast forward a couple of years, and now I'm able to support myself, and things aren't like, as it's not like huge, but there has been a lot of progress just with my independence, and also just with my career. And I don't think I think those are related, because as I was clearing things within myself, I was opening up for more things to come into my life. So
yes, clearing away sort of the noise too. There's analogies in like acupuncture, sort of like clearing like energetic blocks so things can just flow. And but I have not heard of that particular method that you're talking about. I've heard of things like EMDR and all sorts of other modalities. But that's a new one to me. You call it NARM?
NARM, yeah, it's really good for developmental trauma. So I think that they're finding that, I think it's based in somatic experiencing, and then like cognitive therapy. And I think the person that actually my mom got me into this, so she'd be able to explain it like way better than me. But just found that the somatic experiencing and stuff, it wasn't enough for people that have developmental trauma. So it's trauma from before the age of 2. So he found this whole method to working with that. And again, like that's just, for me, that's just a tool. It doesn't heal everything, but there's just different tools that we can use. And it's definitely been a big part of what I've done, but I'm still exploring, still healing. So.
Yeah. Have you ever worked with any hypnosis?
I haven't, no. I have not worked with hypnosis. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about like ayahuasca and different, plant medicines and stuff. I haven't tried them, but it's something I'm definitely open to trying in the future. But
well, if you ever want to try, maybe I can help you out. I got some music for it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm working on a record that's a 5-hour record to take you through a psilocybin mushroom journey.
Oh, cool. Yeah. My friend was just telling me about that and how powerful it is. So
if you do it right, or do it really intentionally and set yourself up for success, your odds of a really powerful, successful experience are extremely high. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. Cool, man. So you got back just a couple days ago?
I got back like I don't even know. I think I got back like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of starting to maybe hopefully get back on track. I don't know.
Yeah,
you brought anything back with you?
No, that was the blessing, is all I brought back was a cold. And
no problem.
Exactly. I was like, I'll take a cold any day from India. Like, because the first time I went, or the second time I went, I was sick for like 2 years after.
Jesus, criminy.
Yeah, that's why I didn't
2 years.
That's why I didn't go back. I was just like,
hell yeah.
This place is beautiful, but I'm not going back there. And then this time I was just very vigilant, and I was only there for like a week and a half. So,
well, what advice do you have for those going to India?
Just do research online. There's a lot of stuff you can take. I was putting grapeseed extract in my water every day. I was taking like wormwood, and I think there's another cloves or something. And I just had like this little care pack that I would take for all the microbes and stuff. And, it seemed to work great. I mean, I got a cold, but
it's different.
Yeah, that's different. But I don't really have, just be preventative and take some stuff to kind of prevent, and just hope for the best, because India is interesting like that. So,
so what are you working on these days musically? What's kind of your edge as far as what you're excited about, or what you're doing, where you want to head?
Well, it's like I was really blessed. Like, I've been really blessed by the yoga scene, and it's obviously fits into my background. It's kind of where I grew up. So like when I started DJing for MC Yogi, he kind of got me into the Wanderlust circuit, and then I started playing a lot of yoga festivals. And one thing I learned about music, at least for me, was when I was just making a bunch of different random things and trying to make dance music and chill music and kind of all over the place, nothing was happening. And when I committed, like, I was like, all right, I have this yoga audience. I'm playing in front of all these people. Like, I should make music for this crowd. I mean, I'd like to. So when I committed to that and started to focus that in that way, things started to happen, So a lot of people started to ask me like, oh, how do you be successful in music? Because it's like, that's the question, right? Everybody's trying to figure it out. And I think like one thing is like really know your audience, like really figure out like who is your audience. It's so important that you know who you're promoting to and creating for, and then really catering to that. So kind of narrowing the focus a bit. So I kind of like, sometimes I'd make something that I really like, but it wouldn't work for the crowd that I'm working with, so I won't put it out, so that being said, like, I love making yoga and chill music, and I have a background as a DJ and playing ecstatic dance, but also just like DJing parties and stuff. And I love like dance parties. And so I think that's sort of the evolution for me, is to continue to create for the yoga audience, because I really like making chill music. It's like, that's what I listen to at home. I don't listen to like, Avicii or Calvin Harris when I'm like in my car, even though I like really love their music, but like I mostly listen to like more chill stuff. But I want to start creating more stuff that can move more energy in like a more energetic way. So more dance music. So that's kind of the block for me, is like, I think if I'm like, yeah, I could make music like Avicii, or, some of these big EDM guys, I would probably do it because I really enjoy it. I really love it. I think it moves a lot of energy. I mean, they're so talented, these guys. And, I just haven't quite cracked that code, I guess. And also like, I think I'm afraid to kind of go for that. So that's kind of my edge, is like creating that music that can be that big.
Well, I think there's a really fine line between knowing your audience and pandering to your audience.
Right.
And I think if I was your audience, what I'd want to see and hear, and this is not me giving you advice, it's just sort of what I think in my own head about myself. Like, I'd want to hear you doing what excites you, because that's probably going to be the most interesting work, where you're starting to explore the most, as opposed to trying to give me something that you think I will accept. And I know it's always a challenging line when we're doing this for a living, and we're like, well, of course we want to make things that people appreciate. But there's something about your work that they must be enjoying, because it's like, it's you and your own bliss. It's like that old Joseph Campbell approach of follow your bliss.
Right.
So if you feel that there's something exciting for you in that direction, I would be like, dude, explore it.
Totally. Yeah.
Go there. Like, why not? Like, these days, be whatever you want to be. You've got people out there who have listened to your work. So the hard part isn't like that. Now it's just sort of like growing in yourself and stretching your own limits and just having a good time with it.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's fair to try it. That's the creative process, and then maybe not like it or change it, or let that inform the process.
Yep. Totally. Yeah, man. It's a journey, like you're saying. Yeah,
it's a mystery too. But I know that, like, for me, for better or worse, if I look at my catalog, it kind of bounces around, and that can be somewhat of a problem, I suppose, from a traditional point of view. But it's always just been like really just trying to follow what excites me, and using that as the litmus test is like my soul talking to me, right, or some larger energy trying to speak to me. And I'm like, that's how it's speaking to me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I find that even like when I'm playing in the moment, like live, it's a similar vibe.
Totally.
That flow state is a very blissful state. And so it's sort of like, that's sort of where I can feel like, oh, this feels good, like this chord progression or something.
Right.
So kind of go in that direction.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
So what's from a music production point of view, are you making stuff at home?
Yeah. I make everything. I've been releasing like a lot of different albums, and it's cool these days because you can kind of do everything yourself. So I do it all from the beginning. I create the track, and then I mix it, and I master it. I'm not sure if I'm really that great at mastering, but I just do it out of convenience.
You ever thought about having somebody else just do the mastering part?
I've had people do mastering for me before. But what I find is that I'm kind of perfectionistic in a way. So I just, I'll get it mastered and I'm like, damn it, this is too loud or this is too loud. And so it didn't really work so well with my process. So I just started doing it myself, and then I can tweak things like when I hear things. And yeah,
Do you mix with a limiter on?
I don't mix with a limiter on. No, I mean, I make sure that my levels aren't so loud that they're clipping. But I don't mix with a limiter on. I do all of that at the end, but I obviously have to make sure that it's sort of loud. One of the problems I have is I mix too quiet, and then I have to bring things up too much on the mix bus. So,
Well, it should be plenty of headroom though if it's in digital workspace. I don't think it's
exactly.
a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just need to turn it up a little bit more. But that's kind of my process. Like, I'm not really a mastering engineer, and I'm not the most technical engineer in the world. But
what are you using to as your DAW?
So I use Ableton Live to produce music, and then I actually use Logic to mix. I used to think that Ableton didn't sound good. I think it's like gotten a lot better, but it just sounded kind of harsh to me. And Logic has this kind of soft feel to it. It's hard to explain, but
yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, it just feels like
I used to hear that. I don't know.
But. Yeah, I don't. It might just be in my head now, but now I just know how to mix in Logic pretty well. So I mix in Logic, and I use UAD plugins, a lot of UAD plugins, and just purchased some expensive Amphion monitors. I was using like the Yamaha's HS8s for a long time, which are really great. But like when I bought the Amphions, which is like a $5,000 system, it like I can suddenly hear things that I couldn't hear before, just distortion and different things. And I was like, whoa, this is really crazy. And then
do you treat your room though?
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, since I moved into my new house, like I don't, my room's really funky shape, but I've invested a bunch in acoustic equipment, and then our acoustic panels, absorbers, diffusers, and then one thing that actually has helped a lot, which I didn't know about until I kind of started geeking out, was I got SonarWorks, so it does the room correction. So it's not perfect, but I can see, like, I had this massive dip at 100 hertz.
It's pretty common, like big, it was like a null.
Yeah, it was a huge bass null. And then when I moved the speakers towards the wall, it got rid of the null, and then like it became a little bit flatter, but it's still a little bit. So like just using room correction software to at least measure my room and then place the speakers. I've been pretty geeky about this stuff lately, but it's helped tremendously because I can hear so much better. And I think that's obviously the number one issue, is that people buy nice monitors, they don't treat their room and have no idea what's going on with what they're hearing. And you're going to mix totally incorrectly. And so I totally relied on the car test. Like, my Toyota Highlander was like the most important part of my studio. It was like, I'm gonna go.
Dude, there was a Jack White studio in Nashville. They don't even have a DAW, and they have an FM transmitter, so he can go out to his car, and while they're playing it through the board, he can check it on FM.
That's freaking amazing.
Because he's like, I need to hear it on FM, not just his car, but through the radio over a transmitter.
That's so cool.
And then they go straight to vinyl. They just cut it on, like, right there.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And he's just like, I just feel like if we had a computer, it would just change everything. I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
So different.
That's trippy. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard some other engineers talking, like big engineers, saying the same thing. Like, it's all about the car test, you know?
I used to have a Highlander.
Yeah. It's a way too bassy system. There's like,
most cars bass. Are. Yeah, they're just terrible, but in their own unique, special way. But you're like, well, it's got to sound good in there because other things do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but you learn how much like bass, too much bass is like way too much, and then there's the too much bass that's like perfect. So you're like,
bass is a real issue when you're mixing. When I moved down to Southern Utah, I don't know if I told you, but we built a music studio down there, Boulder Rock Studios.
Yeah, you're telling me that.
Yeah, you gotta check it out sometime. It's the first time. So I mixed my last record there, the Ramdas one, and it's the first time I mixed in like a really perfect room with some really beautiful barefoot MM27 monitors, through super high end.
Oh, you have the barefoots. Nice. I was
Yeah,
I
the
was tempted
conversion,
by
everything
those.
there is just like
Yeah.
top,
Yeah. That's so cool.
and it just made everything so much faster and
Yeah.
easier. Like I would mix things and then I would check it on systems. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. Like it's not like, oh, the bass is this or that. It's like that. Yeah, that's pretty close. Like
Yeah.
I
You
didn't have to
start
spend all this
trust.
time like going back and okay, let me check it, let me check, and then go back and check it on another system again.
Yeah. 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 You really start to trust your monitors and you trust your room. And like, it's just so much, as you know, it's so much easier. And then it's just more fun too. It's like, wow, So
Yeah, you can, and you're right. Obviously, about the detail of what you're hearing in the mid range, especially.
Yeah.
We have a API board out there too, 1608. So it's like a 16 channel analog board, which
wow.
I'm basically using just for summing. So it's basically like a really nice summing mixer. But I mean, we can track through it too. But I did a little tracking through it. But the funny process on the Ramdas record is that at the end of it, like I ended up replacing lots of instruments or adding lots of things in, but then a lot of the songs ended up being totally acoustic, except for the drums, which are electronic, because I just kept replacing things or adding in things, and it was the first time where the majority of the record was that way with all those elements, and maybe it was something about like all having nice musicians helps, obviously, and good instruments, but good mics, good preamps, clean signals, and then summing it and then mixing it through the barefoots. It gave like a dimensionality and a depth and a width to the music that I've never been able to like come close to before. And I'd never even like understood that before. And now I'm like, oh, I'm just like hooked. No. I don't ever want it to be any different.
Yeah, I know.
It's so rich and like deep. And I also used I always used different like mastering engineers personally. It's sort of my last step. I've always used somebody else.
Yep.
But I used somebody new this time that I haven't worked with before, Huntley Miller. And he did just a wonderful job and changed it. And that's kind of what I was wanting. It's like, I want you to do your thing, but I'm trusting you and we'll see what happens. And it definitely took it up a notch.
That's awesome. Is that record out yet, or is that coming out?
It's out in parts. By the way, it's 11/11.
Oh, cool.
It's out. Chapter 1. It's being released in 4 parts. Was released a couple weeks ago. Depending on when it was on January 25th, it was out, and then March 22nd, the next chapter. Yeah, wow. So you can go hear it. Anyone can hear it. Go hear the first 5 tracks.
Go check it out. That's an honor, man. That's
oh yeah.
Really,
well,
really cool.
if you want, I'll send you a download code if you want to hear it like lossless or like a WAV file.
Yeah, definitely. I'll listen through my fancy speakers.
Yes, then you'll get the full like, oh, sick. This is sick. The mixing is sick.
Yeah.
It's just really pretty. And the first 5 tracks are some of the more sort of contemporary classical-y ones. And then next is coming out. There's one that's got more of a 4 on the floor, 120 and some other vibes. And so it definitely goes around. It goes on a bit of a musical journey, but I think you'll really like it.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's dope, man. I'm excited that you're getting your system like going. Any investment you make in your own musical gear usually pays off in manyfold.
Thank you for telling me that, because I just spent a lot of money. So
it will. Over the years, you'll look back and you're like, dude, thank God God.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
stepped it up, because it'll just keep stepping up and keep stepping up. And I'm seeing that for myself. Like I didn't pay for this studio isn't my studio, but I'm just saying using those tools and really committing to them on a project. I realized like, oh, and now I saw it like through the whole. You have to kind of see it through a whole process.
Yeah.
Because it changes every time you're adding these gain stages. It's changing the sound when and when you get all the way to the mastering, like, oh, now I'm seeing how all those pieces kind of fit together. All these different, preamps and so forth and so on.
Totally. Yeah. I mean that whole world of API boards and summing mixers and all that, that's probably the next step.
Well, my buddy, he's setting up his home place, and he just got one of those D boxes, the Dangerous Music summing mixers.
Yeah.
You might want to check that out. They're not that expensive, and they also serve as a monitor switcher.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they're kind of serving the same purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, they are serving the same purpose, and people really like them.
Okay. Yeah, like the Dangerous 2 bus or something, or is it?
Well, the 2 bus is the fancier one. That's $3,000, but I think they have one for $1,000. That's called the D box. It's only 8 channels.
Okay.
So if you sum down to 8, which isn't that many, but whatever, just depends on what your budget is. But they're all like high end pieces of gear.
Oh, totally.
And that way, it's like if you're just interested in the summing part versus tracking, that's sort of like, well, you don't need the whole console.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Anyway, I like all this music stuff.
Yeah, me too.
All the gear stuff. It's like the things in my life that I'm such a sucker for is like microphones, hats, and coats.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's like I have way too many microphones.
Oh, I know that. Like, I cannot stand shopping, but I love going to a good like music
and tools. I like tools too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like to build stuff.
Yep.
Well, yeah. If you can ever make your way out to Utah, I know it's not exactly the most convenient spot down there, but that's sort of the point.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, me and my girlfriend love to go to Utah to just go to the Red Rocks and all that. So maybe could stop by on one of our trips. So.
Yeah, we've got our retreat too that we do in end of September.
Oh, cool.
Same place. But I've been wanting to do a music retreat there. It's more like just for musicians, where we are playing and recording and going.
That'd be fun, man.
Well, musicians usually don't have any money, but it's like,
yeah, I know.
But I was thinking of doing something like that and doing it on a kind of on a gift model.
Yeah,
and sort of a giving back type vibe.
Yeah, that'd be cool because I think like, I don't know, for me it's a very introverted kind of process, like just being in the studio by myself all the time, and anytime I work with someone, like, oh wow, cool, that's really cool. I just learned. Yeah,
you learn a lot. Yeah. Do you collaborate much? Because I know for me that's where I've learned a lot, or just watching people work.
I don't collaborate a lot. I would say the main collaborators are a lot of my popular tracks have guitar in it, and it's this guy Brandon Fox, who's a great guitar player. Done some stuff with some vocalists like Kevin Paris and different people like that. But I want to do more collaboration. I want to because there's obviously I'm not from a musical background per se and trained in instruments and stuff. So anytime I get a master of their instrument, it's like amazing because they really know what they're doing, and it adds just so many new elements to like what I would do in my head.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then obviously vocals, like the I guess because I've been making so much yoga music, I haven't done a lot of vocals, but I definitely want to start doing more vocal driven tracks, and but I mean, really, I'd love to collaborate with some more producers and stuff too. That would be really fun, just because we can geek out and learn a bunch of stuff. So,
do you do many remixes? You into that world at all?
I haven't, but I'm definitely open to doing stuff. Yeah. If you ever need anything, let me know.
You're always welcome if you want to dig into something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I've always enjoyed remixing other people's stuff. I've only done it a little bit, but every time I've done it, it's kind of fun because it's it's a little easier. Instead of like starting from nothing, it's like, okay, here's some stems, and I'm just like, they already sound good, right? The stems themselves. So now it's just like, just start playing around. You just dive right into the arranging, editing, and then you start taking things out and adding in new elements, and and just let it go where it goes.
Definitely,
It's usually it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
if the song speaks to you.
Yeah, exactly. There's those. I'm not like I'm not one of those producers. There's producers. You're probably one of them. That can kind of just produce anything like pretty well. Like if you give them a direction, they're just so talented that they can kind of just create whatever. I'm not really like that. Like I have to really feel something, and it just comes out when it works, and when it doesn't, I've tried to do remixes for people that, you know, I can't come up with anything, and it's not, you know, it's not the track. I love the track, but so yeah, it just depends on if it's speaking to me or not.
Well, it is interesting too when you're working with somebody else and you're trying to like kind of work through their voice a bit. There's a freedom in that as well, because you're not as tied into that whole process of what is it coming out of me organically, and is it me, and blah 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 blah. It's really much more like trying to put on the hat of like of being in service of, okay, what is this artist asking for,
right?
And like when I was working with MC Yogi on his Ritual Mystical record, it was his record, so he was definitely in the driver's seat, and I was really just trying to, when I was like writing for that record, I was just trying to really listen to the stuff he wanted it to sound like, and knowing what we were trying to make overall, but really try to just put that hat on, and fit into that. And there was actually a freedom in that, because I wouldn't sit there and second guess my own process as much.
Right.
I was just trying it,
Yeah, you did a phenomenal job with that record, so it came out really good. Man. Yeah,
that was an interesting process to.
Yeah,
it's also fun to try on other sonic stuff you might not do with your own projects. That's a great way to like learn stuff and
totally, and like just work with other people's ideas. I know like MC Yogi has
a lot
of ideas.
A lot of ideas.
Like he's the idea man. It's pretty amazing. Like,
Yeah, it's just a fountain of creativity of all different kinds. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, he's pretty amazing. So, yeah, man. Be cool.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. I'm excited for you. Yeah. So, what do you got coming up?
Yeah, I put out a single yesterday. I'm putting out a single every week for my new album, Love Is. Totally mixed on my new monitors, so I think it's like the best sounding record I've ever done.
Check it out.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Love Is. It comes out on March 13th, I think, or March.
How many tracks?
There's gonna be 11 tracks. But I'm doing an experiment this month. It's March 12th is when it comes out. But every Tuesday of February, I'm putting out a single, just to kind of generate some excitement, I guess, about the record. And yeah, I'm just gonna put that out. I'm really proud of that. And then I'm already working on the next record. It's kind of how it goes. I usually finish, that feeling is like you're done with the record and you're like, now what?
Postpartum depression.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It releases and you're like, this sucks.
Yeah. It's like, and then I can't come up with anything for like a month. I'm just like, I have no creativity. And I'm like, damn, I was so creative like when I was making this record. And then the next thing starts to kind of happen. So that next wave is starting to happen right now. So I'm starting to create. And then I'm not sure if you go through this too, but I'm like, I finished a few tracks. I'm like, damn, like I'm going to be sitting on these for like half a year or a year. I haven't even put out the other record. Like, man, like I'm ready to put these out now. But, that's the beauty of just like, it just trips me out. Like when sometimes I make a track and I'm like, whoa, like that didn't exist like 2 hours ago, like at all in the universe. And now it's like here. So it's like it get created out of nothing. And like, that's what I love about being a creative person, is like just the whole creation. I mean, it's really cool to just like, be in that creative space. And then it can suck when, you have writer's block or whatever. But yeah, it's a good life. It's a good life.
Yeah, making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
I was just yesterday was thinking about AI and how AI will become more and more a tool of music, and how it's already, for instance, AI is playing a big role in selecting Spotify Discover Weeklies and playlists and things like that.
Yeah.
Because there's 20,000 tracks a day added to Spotify and so forth. And so it's actually helping you, like, let's say, but it's replacing radio terrestrial DJs in a sense, but at the same time, it's also helping them discover new tracks.
Totally.
So it's sort of assistive, but it's automation that will replace them. And it's inevitable that there'll be more and more tools as a music maker that will like help you make interesting parts in your music.
Totally.
And help you like write shit. And it's like collaborative. And so the music scene in essence will almost get more competitive because everyone will just keep embracing this stuff and it'll just get more and more interesting and nuanced. I'm not saying I want this. It's inevitable. And then the next step is the AI will be writing the music themselves and we'll have favorite artists that are AI. And that might even be an artist that's made just for you because it knows exactly what you like. And it makes music just for you.
That's the trippy thing. Like, are we even going to have
We're
jobs
done, dude.
in like
No.
20 years?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, but I do have faith though that what will become more and more interesting to people is the live, because that's still a live human up there, and the element of the authenticity, the element of the simplicity, the element of that love. Like it can be imitated very well, but there is something to be said about. It's actually a very interesting question. You know, is it like what role we will play in creativity 20, 30 to let alone 100 years from now? It's who knows?
I know.
And not to mention, dude, music mixing, you know, went from mono to stereo, and the next phase is most likely this 3D 360 mixing for like virtual reality, which is the next step. And there's already a lot of development going on about mixing in that space. Think of like surround sound, but it's 360.
Wow.
And so you put in a headphone instead of having they'd have all these little omnidirectional speakers in it. And these are already being developed so that your mixing space now becomes very different where you can place sounds. So we're already doing that with, you know, depth, height, and width, you know, with reverb and panning and volume. So imagine just being able to place things and all these things. It would just I have a feeling that's going to be the next transformation in music quite soon. And we'll look back at stereo mixed music as, you know, the previous thing. Wow. It'll just be much more immersive.
That'd be cool. Like going to a concert and having it surround sound, like sounds coming from all directions. I don't know how that would work with just how people are standing, you know, like people on the sides and stuff. But
I think this would be more like recorded music. That's how it would transform.
Just like sitting, that makes
more
sense.
of a immersive thing. And perhaps if it was in virtual reality, if that ever takes off, there'd be all this other visual element they could put in there too. We wouldn't have to tour and travel. We could just get into our little pod and perform.
But some of these tools are like pretty amazing. Like I just downloaded this Sound Theory Golfos. Have you heard of that?
I started using that on this last record. It's
amazing.
When I first saw that, I told my friend who's Steve-O, who said, I was like, dude, this is cheating. And I was like, well, there's no such thing. But now actually I've discovered where it has problems and stuff. So now I don't feel like it's cheating at all. It's just another tool. And I know what it's good for and what it says adaptive EQ type stuff. Yeah, because I saw an RX, I used the isotope stuff for a lot of like actually podcasts, and I was cleaning up Ram Dass's talking, but they have in that pack, they have like this tonal balance control that's similar. It's like an active EQ that's working on the fly. I haven't messed around with it too much, but the Golfos one is pretty impressive.
It's pretty impressive. Like it'll bring up the like kind of the noise a little bit sometimes. Like it'll get a little audible hiss, but if you dial it in right.
It's good for dynamic things, talk. Actually, I use it on the podcast because it's great for talking, just getting in those resonant frequencies that are in our voices and stuff in the mids.
Totally, yeah. But that's where it's all moving. Is like you're probably gonna just press a button for an EQ and it'll just do the best. They kind of already do that, I guess, but I don't know. They do, how well
and that's what photography happened with. I used to be a photographer, and I saw Instagram and all the iPhones and everything, and I was like, all right. Yeah. This is a done deal.
Yeah, we'll see if we have.
They can hire me.
These are the good old days, right? You know,
get it while it gets good.
You know, and how and also like do you think the Spotify thing's gonna last or?
Like
the whole.
I go back and forth. I do actually. I think it's going to be around for a little bit. Because I don't know about you, but you know, you and I didn't come up in the CD world, and so everyone who's lamenting Spotify are those who are pissed off they're not making CD money. And moreover, they're probably on major labels where they're getting 12% of their royalties, if that, you know. So they're just not making any money. I'm like, well, you don't own your music. You need to own it.
I will say, like, Spotify is the greatest thing to ever happen to like independent musicians. And from my experience, Spotify, Apple Music, and people are complaining, you know, they're paying like pennies for every play. But, you know, if you're getting millions of plays, it adds up. And like I've made like way more money from Spotify than I ever would like selling CDs at shows. And like the Discover Weeklies and all of that, like it's helped propel me to so many different people that I would never reach. I mean, there's a worldwide audience. You know, I've been placed
Pandora
in
is
movies.
shit too. Like, it's funny. I don't know how they can get away with paying so little. Whereas I don't understand it. And Spotify, I think 40% of my income came from Spotify alone.
Yeah, exactly.
The last 2 years.
Exactly. It's like that's the streaming for me. It's like half my income now. And you know, Spotify's losing money, so it's like you can't. They're mostly, you know, spending their money on paying artists. So I don't.
They're definitely doing a lot of like. I mean, they're a massive. Amazon was the same way for many years.
They're growing and they're you know. So I hopefully as a musician that continues, because I've been really happy with Spotify and that whole world.
I mean, I'm always looking for ways to diversify my income, as for one, just practically speaking, and the other is that, I mean, the mission I've always had with East Forest is one that is very diverse. It's sort of like opening different doorways for people to step inside themselves, and to grow. And one of those is music. That's the backbone of it. But I was always looking to find. I mean, this podcast is part of that.
Yeah,
it's sort of
and the retreats and stuff too.
The retreats and whatever else we can come. And that's why I like those collaborations and cross pollinations with different methodologies and modalities, because that stuff's interesting to me, at least.
Totally. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I have to bounce to an appointment, but I want to appreciate having your time and coming on. And can you just let us know where you're at online? You're easy to find.
Yeah, it's just if you want to look me up on Spotify or any of the streaming, it's SOL Rising, Soul Rising, and soulrising.com is another place, and Instagram.com/Soul Rising or @Soul Rising. It's pretty obvious. Just look up Soul Rising. I can't name them all. There's too many different places to go, but.
Well, I'll put your site in the show notes. Look forward to checking out the single.
Cool.
And seeing you on the road and chatting again sometime.
Cool, man.
I'll send you the download code too. You can let me know what you think of the mixes, the Ram Dass stuff.
Yeah, please do. And I'm honored to be on this, and I've always loved your music. And so thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it. Man. Yeah, we'll see you in a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Soul Rising, for giving us your time. This track you are hearing in the background is one of his. This is called The Journey. You can check him out on his sites, his Spotify, iTunes. I'll put a link to his website in the show notes as well. And please, you know, we're talking about reviews and the thumbs ups and the thumbs down. If you want to give this podcast a review, great. I mean, more importantly, if you wanted to share it with your friends, that makes a big difference. I just appreciate the support. And you can also say hi at info@eastforest.org or just on social media by tagging East Forest or East Forest Music. And that's always a great way to stay connected. But I hope to see you on the road. We can do some things in person. I thank you again for listening to the new music, the Ram Dass Chapter 2, and for sharing your stories and sharing that with your friends too. I'm just one person, and I love having you do your part by being part of the conversation. So eastforest.org/tour will show you all those dates, or you can get on our mailing list if you want to not be out of the loop. Sometimes we send like an email to everyone when we're releasing something, or if I'm coming to your specific city, we do our best to send an email to that city only and just say, hey, this is happening. Because there's a lot happening out there, and I know how it goes. I know it's easy to miss things, so I don't want you having FOMO, folks. I want you having forget it. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm gonna bounce back. I'm gonna bounce back from this tree fort, but it was so beautiful. You keep walking your walk, folks. Don't take any shit, but if you do it with grace. May the forest be with you.